Back again after another year hiatus. It's Sanctuary of Reality, my comic review series. Time now for Cerebus, issue 201, the first chapter of Guys, the 11th Cerebus phone book. It's still in print, so you can get it anywhere, really. At the old tavern near where Castle Wallace used to stand, right next to the Wall of Sigh, Cerebus has taken up residence. Currently, Squint Eye and Pluto, stars of a popular Reed series based on their earlier adventures, have shown up for their autograph signings 4 months early. They bicker and eventually head outside. Meanwhile, Prince Mick and bartender Harrison Starkey talk about Cerebus, who sits in the corner quietly nursing a hangover. Seems he goes on 2-day benders, then spends 2 days off, and so on. Today's an off day, and when he comes over to try to talk to the pair, they make it clear they'd rather talk about him behind his back. Mrs. Thatcher, the Serenus overseer for the tavern, drops by suddenly, so Harrison quickly buttons up his attire and makes himself presentable. Prince Mick makes his contempt for the woman well known. She's more interested in talking to Cerebus, whom she encourages to attend one of the local dances and meet a girl to marry, but stresses not to rush into it, to sow his wild oats with some tavern tramps and whores first. Mrs. Thatcher warns him not to continue on this path of drinking himself to death, when Marty interrupts their discussion to ask for directions to the Starchild Tavern. He has trouble discerning her directions, namely his inability to tell what way is right. She races off to assist him, leaving Cerebus asking Harrison and Mick about what the girls are like at these dances. When Cerebus mentions the tavern tramps and whores that Thatcher claimed exist, Mick and Harrison burst out laughing at this ludicrous concept, mocking the claim in great detail. How will Cerebus react to this reaction? We hear Squint Eye and Pluto, but we never actually see them on panel. You may remember them from their appearance in Cerebus Jam, the one-shot that Dave, Sim, and Gerhard did in this particular story with Terry Austin. They were basically elderly versions of Popeye and Bluto. Considering how old they were in that appearance when Cerebus was a boy, they must be downright ancient in this particular issue. Harrison Starkey, the bartender, is a combination parody of two of the Beatles, George Harrison and Ringo, whose real name was Richard Starkey. His brother, who's mentioned here and appears in a few issues, will be named Richard George, which is the other two of their names taken on. He spends most of this issue talking with Prince Mick, who you may remember is a parody of Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones. Marty, the googly-eyed fellow who's trying to get directions to the Starchild Tavern, is based actually on Martin Humble, a character from the Starchild comic series, who is in turn based on Marty Feldman, the comic legend, who particularly his portrayal as Igor, or rather Igor, in Young Frankenstein. The stone-faced figure sitting by himself smoking is based on Bacchus, the Eddie Campbell comic character. We'll see more of him in a few issues. These two are just the first of what will be many independent comic character parodies, homages, whatever you would like to call them, that populate the tavern throughout Guys. So I'll try to point out where they come from as they appear, so you can always go and check out their original series that they're based on. Starting with this issue and running throughout most of Guys, the front page will actually be incorporated into the story. Usually it's maybe a couple panel gag, or maybe it's just one panel, various things you'll see. Not only that, but the inside front cover includes a a panel or two that if you read the trade paperback, or rather the phone book, you'll notice that these are included almost seamlessly in the book as well. So you aren't missing anything if you get the phone book. But it is an interesting way of doing things, including the cover and the inside cover in the story. It's not an experiment that lasts that long, but it is something that Dave was experimenting with in Guys, and it's very intriguing to really maximize your reading potential, to actually include the cover in the story. It's very rare that you get to see that. This is a very good start to what is my favorite phone book of the entire series. At this time, there's no overarching plot. It's just mainly situational stuff, if not downright low-key conversations going on as opposed to events. It's just funny and excellently drawn. The only issue I could see somebody having trouble with reading this issue would be the phonetics of Harrison Starkey and Prince Mick's speech patterns, which is Dave doing accents very very true to how they sound. The accents do take a little getting used to, but I find if you read them aloud, they flow a lot easier, and you can understand them a lot better. The same thing goes for Cerebus's drunk speech accent, which we'll get a lot more as this series runs on. Next time, play a game of 5-Bar Gate.